Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhur Rasika Bhuvi Bhavakaha Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam Samyutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Murho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavaka Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam Shilkamakadam Samyutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Murho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavaka. The Vedic literatures,
Kalpataro, the desire tree, Galitam, fully matured, Phalam, fruit, Shuka, Shrishadeva Goswami, the original speaker, Srimad Bhagavatam, Mukhat, from the lips of, Amrita, nectar, Drapa, semi-solid and soft, and therefore easily swallowable. Samhitam, perfect in all respects, Pibata, you relish it. Bhagavatam, the book dealing in the science of the eternal relation to the world. Rasam, juice, that which is relishable. Alayam, until liberation, or even in a liberated condition. Muhu, always. Aho, oh. Rasika, those that are full of knowledge of metals. Bhuvi, on the earth. Bhavaka, expert and thoughtful. Translation, you say this all together too.
expert and thoughtful men relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree. The lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectarine juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls.
You won't read the whole report from start to finish, but I've extracted, I followed on with this example of taking out some snippets from the report, and I've included those on the slides. So if whenever you see something in quotation marks, it's from the report, and then there's other things on the slides. So again, if you're upset, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So this presentation is, I was really blessed to get this verse because it's so sweet. To talk about rasa, to talk about the relationships that devotees have with Krishna, and to think about how we also all have an eternal relationship with Krishna, and that's what the Bhagavatam is for. It's for being inspired by devotees' relationships with Krishna and being attracted to having a particular relationship with Krishna. And as we read the Bhagavatam again and again, over and over throughout our lifetimes, then particular moods and services to Krishna that we see in the Bhagavatam, we begin to become more and more interested in those particular moods and identify with them and develop transcendental desires to serve Krishna in particular ways. And that's how true creeper of the devotion gets nourished and grows and takes shelter below the feet of Krishna in a particular rasa. So let's go to the next slide. All right, so the first words of this verse are Nigama Kalpa Taro. Nigama means the Vedas, and Kalpa Taro means the desired tree. So yesterday in our evening class, we were discussing the different Vedic literatures, the different branches of the Vedas, and it's really like a tree in that there are these branches and sub-branches and twigs and all these fields of knowledge, and how the Vedas fulfill everyone's desires. So that whatever level the person is at, whether they're full of material desires or they want liberation, whatever particular mode of material nature they're in, or combination of the modes, there are Vedas that, that deal with those, that attract people in those modes. So let's have somebody read. This is from the purport about this.
Vedas are compared to
The Vedas are compared to the desire tree because they contain all things noble in man. They deal with mundane necessities as well as spiritual realization. The Vedas contain a range of principles of knowledge covering social, political, religious, economic, engineering, medicinal, chemical, physical, and metaphysical subject matter, and all that may be necessary to keep the body in good health. Above and beyond all this are specific directions for spiritual realization. Negative knowledge involves the gradual lifting of the living entity to the spiritual platform, and the highest spiritual realization is knowledge of the personality of Godhead is the reservoir of all spiritual states or others.
So yeah, yesterday evening we talked about all these aspects of the Vedas and how Srila Vyasadeva divided them up. He expanded them into Mahabharata, and Puranas, and Itihasas, and then he wrote the Vedanta Sutra. But then he wasn't satisfied until he wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because the reason he wasn't satisfied was because he didn't give the rasa. He was withholding the juice, and so all these other things were kind of dry. And so he was satisfied when he wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam, because by reading Srimad Bhagavatam only we get this essence, the highest spiritual realization of Krishna as the reservoir of all spiritual tastes and rasas. Go ahead, please. All right, so there's a tree, and so the tree has all these branches and sub-branches and twigs and leaves, but what's really, the thing you really want from the tree is the fruit, right? If you have an apple tree, you're just waiting for the apples to come. You plant the tree and it grows, and it's years, maybe decades before it becomes fully mature enough to produce fruits. And then the fruits start coming, but still you need to wait for them to get ripe. Because if you eat the fruit before it's ripe, it's not so tasty, you might get sick. And so the Srimad Bhagavatam is the fruit of that desire tree. So the Vedic desire tree fulfills all the desires, but the real desire, the core essential desire, is fulfilled by the Srimad Bhagavatam because it is the essence of the Vedas. And so that is the real fruit of this desire tree of the Vedic literature. And it's fully matured. It's a ripe fruit. It's sweet and it's juicy. Oh yeah, someone should read that a little.
The ripened fruit is not dropped out. The ripened fruit is not dropped out of the sun from the highest planet of Krishna Loka. Rather, it has come down carefully through a chain of disciplined succession without change or disturbance.
Yeah, so one thing we can see here is that Srimad Bhagavatam is not a book of this world, but it has come down from the highest planet of Krishna Loka. These pastimes, these explanations, they're all coming from the spiritual world, just like it said of the holy name, Golok Era Premadana, Harinam Sankirtan. The holy name has descended from Goloka. So the Srimad Bhagavatam has also descended from Goloka, Vrindavan, Krishna Loka, in the spiritual world. And it wasn't just dropped, because if the fruit falls off the tree, it's just gonna splat, especially if it's very ripe, or at least it's gonna get bruised, it's not gonna be so desirable. So he's saying how this fruit wasn't just dropped, but it was carefully passed down. So it's like you get a ladder and you get someone at the top and next rung, and so someone picks the fruit very carefully, hands it to the next person, hands it to the next person. And then we're waiting at the bottom of the tree and we're like, give one to me. So that's how the knowledge of Krishna and Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes starts off in the spiritual world and gets handed down to us here on this lowly earth planet, intact through the cyclic succession. All right, and Srimad Bhagavatam is especially relishable, especially tasty, because it was spoken by Shukadeva Goswami. Shukamukad Namrita Dravasamritam. It's come from the lips, from the mouth of Shukadeva Goswami, this nectar of the Bhagavatam. And Shuka is Another name of Shuka is parrot. So we can just read this.
In Sanskrit, the parrot is also known as shuka. When a ripened fruit is cut by the red beaks of such birds, its sweet flavor is enhanced. The subject matter is so presented through the lips of Srila Sukadeva Goswami that any sincere listener that hears submissively can at once relish transcendental tastes which are distinct from the perverted tastes of the material world.
Yes, I had this experience one time in Mayapur that one gardener from the neighbor came over with a papaya because he would pick the papayas from the tree and then he would sell them. But then there was one papaya that had been pecked by a bird, so he couldn't sell it. So he just came over and asked me if I wanted it, and I was like, definitely, this must be the sweetest one. You know, it's already been pecked by the bird. And I was just remembering this verse, and then we cut that papaya, offered to Krishna, and that was the best papaya I ever had in my life. I couldn't believe that papaya. It was like from the spiritual world. So this is true. When a bird pecks the fruit, don't think it's bad now. That's the best one. So, yeah, so because this knowledge has passed through Shukadeva Goswami, because he's such an advanced devotee, then it's like maybe you've had the experience that you've heard a class on a topic from one devotee, then you heard a similar class from another devotee, and because of the nature of that devotee's devotion for Krishna, the way that particular presentation of the same topic is so sweet, it's just like nectar. So Shukadeva Goswami is that very exalted devotee that when whatever comes from his mouth is just going to be nectar, the way the fruit that's pecked by the parrot is sweet. And then another thing about Shukadeva Goswami, and related to the parrot, is that he makes it draba. He makes it easily swallowed. So just like the bird when it gets the fruit, so sometimes it pecks a fruit which is a little hard that you can't give directly to the baby birds. So the bird kind of chews it a little bit, softens it up, and then just places it in the mouth of the babies. So Shukadeva Goswami also he presented the knowledge of Bhagavatam, which is so sublime as to be somewhat incomprehensible. Right? We were talking about how Vyasadeva wrote Vedanta Sutra, but it was for scholars, and it was in these little concise statements that needed so much unpacking. It was you couldn't access it. Most people couldn't understand it, and so you had to write the Bhagavatam. I mean, Shukadeva spoke the Bhagavatam. He spoke it with sensitivity to the audience, to the social context, to make it in a way that people could relate to. It's relatable and relevant and applicable. So this is it's called Shirapa. Somebody read the quote, please. Ananya.
The Vedic fruit which is mature and ripe in knowledge is spoken through the lips of Srila Shukadeva Swami, who is compared to the parrot not for his ability to recite the Bhagavatam exactly as he heard it from his learned college, but for his ability to present the word in a manner that would appeal to all classes of men.
So he didn't just, although he's kind of like a parrot, he recited it exactly as he heard it, but he adjusted it to appeal to everyone. We saw that he wrote Vedanta Sutra particularly for scholars. He wrote, Vyasadeva wrote the Mahabharata particularly for women, working class people, friends of the Brahmins who weren't so erudite. But Bhagavatam is for everyone. He wrote it in such a way that everybody can get it. Amelia, you have a question? I thought I said you had that. That's fine. Okay, let's go next. All right, so then Pivata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam is the next thing. So this Bhagavatam is like a juice. This word rasam, Prabhupada translates as juice. And we're going to talk a lot about this word and expand upon the meanings more. But the word Pivata means drink. So this verse is actually as a command. He's telling us, he's calling out these aho rasika, and just drink this nectar, drink this juice of the Bhagavatam. It's here for you to consume. So, yeah. All right, so when should we drink it?
Now.
Woo, always. Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya. Every day, regularly, all the time, constantly, without cessation. Okay, and how else? Alaya means until liberation. So just keep drinking it until you're liberated, because this is what is going to liberate you. And even after liberation, go on drinking it, because this is all there is. This is it. This is the means, and it's also the goal. It's how to get to the goal, and it is the goal. So, and the more we drink it, the more we taste it. It's not like, usually when you're in the material thing, if you drink it, like the first sip is like the best. After that, your sense of taste kind of becomes dull or familiar or something, right? But with Bhagavatam, it's like the more you drink it, the more tastier it gets. It's the opposite. Okay. And then who should drink it? And these are the people he mentions. The Rasikas, those who are full in knowledge of rasas or transcendental relationships. So this is not for impersonalists. This is for people who want juice, who want a loving relationship, who want to be connected with a supreme person who's full of transcendental qualities, and to exchange loving exchanges with that person. And Mugi Bhavaka, people in this world who are expert and thoughtful. So foolish people aren't going to be attracted to this. People who are inexperienced are not going to be attracted to the Bhagavatam. But this is people who are actually thoughtful, who actually think about life and who am I and what is my purpose here and what is the goal of my existence. So if you really want answers to those questions, then it's all here in the Bhagavatam and more. So here, rasa, we've been talking more about the meanings of rasa, because Prabhupada translates it in the synonyms as juice or that which is relishable. But in the Nectar of Devotion, in the preface, Srila Prabhupada talks a lot about rasa. He says this word in English is difficult to define. There's no exact English translation. And the meaning is very deep. There's a lot to it. So juice, in that it has a taste. It's a sweet taste, but it's a taste that comes from a loving relationship with Krishna. And in Nectar Devotion, he also talks about that there's a mundane rasa. We can all experience that. In any relationship we have, whether it be a friendship or parents with children, or between husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, there's some taste, there's some something relishable, there's some sweetness there that inspires you to invest in the relationship. For example, a man who's married and has family, he gets some taste from his being with his family that impels him to go and work a 9-to-5 job and earn money to pay the bills and buy food and clothes and stuff for all of his family. And there's that taste that urges him on to work. So the rasa, or the sweet taste that comes from our devotional service to Krishna, it impels us to do more, to go deeper. I'm sure you've all experienced that to some extent. That when you're chanting really good japa, you want to chant more. When you're in a kirtan, you want to stay and you don't want it to ever end. Or when you're doing your service, you're like, wow, this is so amazing. I just want to be always engaged in Krishna service. And discover newer and newer aspects of service to Krishna and Krishna, my relationship with Krishna. So this is all rasa. Let's someone read.
Every living entity from Brahma, the first word of the being of the material world, balancing and desires to relish some sort of taste derived from sense perception. The essential pleasures and technically called rasas. Such rasas are of different varieties.
Yeah, so everybody's looking for this taste, right? Everyone's just looking for some sweetness that comes from a relationship. And that's why we keep going from one, everyone's just looking for a relationship. And they try one relationship, they don't get enough sweet taste, they think this one will be sweeter, they try another relationship. So people are just looking for that relationship where they can get a taste, and not just one taste, but they want varieties of taste, and therefore we have many friends, not just one friend. We want to interact with many different kinds of people. Like here at Krishna House, everybody is different, everybody's an individual, and it makes it more relishable because there are all these different varieties of tastes. Each person that you talk to, you get a different feeling from, you get a different experience. That's variety is the mother of enjoyment. And so the perfection of the spiritual life is to relish those pure spiritual exchanges with Krishna and devotees. Okay, so these are of different varieties, and there are 5 primary rasas, starting with Shantaras, which is neutrality, and then Dasya, servitorship, Sakya is fraternity or friendship, Vatsalya, parenthood, and Shringar or Adurya rasa is conjugal love. It's called Shringar in the purport. Generally, we call it Adurya rasa. So we'll go into these in a little more detail now. Shanta rasa is neutrality. So the way that a devotee serves Krishna in Shanta rasa is it's not directly interactive with Krishna, but it's kind of from a distance. So when you meditate on the Lord, you admire his qualities. You may be there with Krishna, but you're not personally interacting with Krishna. You're just kind of, admiring how beautiful he is, how amazing he is, what a wonderful thing he just did. You offer obeisances, prayers. You might go tell other people about Krishna. Like preaching is an activity in Shantarasa, so we're in a relationship with Krishna, but it's kind of indirect. And it's not that you don't feel something, they feel ecstatic emotions, maybe ecstatic symptoms, but it's mutual adoration. So example of this is the four Kumaras. And this is, Srila Prabhupada explains that this is the beginning position of devotional service. And basically everybody begins their spiritual life, at least, people in the material world who are not Nitya-siddhas and are aware of their return. But as we develop our relationship with Krishna, we generally start with Shantaras. So as sadhakas, that's what we do. We chant japa, we try to meditate on Krishna, we read the Bhagavatam, hear about Krishna's pastimes, we try to, we admire his qualities, we offer our obeisances and prayers, we tell other people about Krishna, and we do feel ecstasy sometimes in those activities. So that's Shantaras. And then Dasyaras is serving Krishna. So in all of Krishna's different pastimes, he always has servants around him. So Balakukshetra, or not Balakukshetra. Balakukshetra is different. Krishna's actually serving Krishna. But generally when Krishna wants to go somewhere, like when he went to kidnap Rukmini, Daruka drove his chariot. And then there's different servants in Vrindavan who wash his clothes, bring his bath water, and prepare his betel nuts and all different things. And then there are servants that go with him out to the pasturing grounds and fan him when he gets too hot and massage his feet when he gets tired of running and jumping. So, different services, yeah. And then Sakyaras is friendship. So the friends of Krishna are mainly the cowherd boys. Also in Dwarka, Hastinapur, Mathura, he has friends like the Pandavas. So they play together. There's a lot of joking, there's mock fighting and wrestling, there's all kinds of challenges, and then they just relax together, they talk and they joke. And when Krishna has some scheme, like he wants to go and do something, he's arranging to meet the gopis or do some naughty thing, play some trick, then his friends are there like, yeah, that's a great idea, let's do it. And they're like, okay, I'll do this, you do that. Right? When he wants to steal butter, the friends are all like, okay, you stand on my shoulders, and you stand on my shoulders. So that's the friends. And then there's different, amongst the friends, there are different relationships depending on their age. So the older friends, they have this protective parental mood towards Krishna, that they want to take care of Krishna. There's danger. They're like, oh, Krishna, don't go there, that could be dangerous. They look after him a little bit. And the younger ones, they're kind of mixed servitors. So if they're like playing with the ball goes sort of rolls into the woods, then the little one will, I'll get it, don't worry. So he fetches it, gives it to Krishna. Or maybe he'll carry Krishna's lunch bag while he's playing his flute or something like that. And then the same age ones are very confidential. They're the Priya Sakhas, like Subal and Sridham, that are really like Krishna's accomplices, partners in crime. They help make arrangements for meetings with the gopis and like that. They cover for him when he's in trouble. All right. Then there's Vatsalya Ras, which is parental affection. So this is a protective mood of parents like Yashoda and Nanda in Vrindavan, Vasudeva and Devaki in Mathura. And then Rohini is Balaram's mother. Then there's in Dwarka, there's Kunti, who's the mother of the Pandavas, and she also sees Krishna as her son because he's the same age as her sons. And then there's the elderly gopis in Vrindavan, especially in the year when Krishna expanded himself as all the cowherd boys and calves, they literally were his mother. And then Sandipani Muni, who is his teacher, also has, and Sandipani Muni's wife also has a parental affection for Krishna. So they, so like Mother Yashoda, the parents, they feed Krishna, they clothe him, they teach him, they try to teach him about values, good behavior, how to be a good boy, and, and they punish him when he's naughty, they reward him when he's good, and then Mother Yashoda will wake him up and put him to sleep and dress him and oversee all the his care. So that's Vatsalya Rasa. And then the highest rasa is Madhurya Rasa, or conjugal love. So this is exemplified by the gopis of Vrindavan and also the queens of Dwarka. The queens of Dwarka are married to Krishna, and the gopis of Vrindavan are connected with Krishna in what's called the Parakiya Rasa, which means unwedded love. And so they serve Krishna in all these aspects of a romantic relationship. These, furtive sidelong glances, love-laden smiles, secret meetings in the forest at night, and then embracing, kissing, dancing, eating together, feeding each other, combing each other's hair, and just things like that. Loving, romantic, intimate dealings. Krishna with these things. So I was just thinking that it's amazing that, in other religions, there's some, people have a concept of God, but really, because the concept is so vague, it doesn't go beyond Shantaras, offering prayers and offering respects and with awe and reverence. And even that is like, sometimes you wonder who you're actually bowing down to, like who is this personality? You just have a very foggy notion. Whereas in the Vedic version, especially in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's such a clear concept of God, this full description of what he looks like, all of his qualities and all these relationships. And it's really just incredible. And in other religions, there's no concept that you can have anything really other than a relationship of neutrality, worshiping God. There's no concept that you could be God's parent, parental, mood of God, or God forbid, you could be his lover. It's just like, whoa, what is that? So the Bhagavatam it's so amazing to think that you can actually have such an intimate relationship with Krishna. And then, so those are the 5 primary relationships. And then in addition to those, we have these secondary relationships. So the primary relationships are always there, but it's just like, we'll talk about this more. Well, let's just run through these. So Adbhuta, astonishment or wonder. Vira is chivalry. Daya, compassion, mercy. Rodra is anger. Bhayanika, dread, horror. Maya, which is fear. Bhivatsa, ghastliness or shock. And Hasya, comedy. So we're going to go through these in more detail. So somebody can read that quote, please.
There we go. When the 5 primary rasas are absent, love is present indirectly. For example, when a man is in love with a woman, the rasa is called conjugal love. But when such love affairs are disturbed, there may be wonder, anger, shock, or even horror.
Yeah, so this is the relation. This is to give us an idea of how these things play in. So the predominant relationship between a husband and wife is conjugal love. It's a romantic relationship, intimate relationship. But sometimes that romance is covered. If one of them gets really fried with the other, then the predominant relationship, the predominant mood becomes anger. Or if someone just does something, like, oh my God, how could you possibly, like all your romance goes out the window and you just think, you stupid jerk. So, yeah. So, or wonder like, maybe somebody had, like, just your husband or wife achieved something wonderful, you're just like, wow, that's so amazing, and you can have this feeling of actually like reverence, admiration, awe towards the person. So when the primary rasa is eclipsed by one of these, then it's like the secondary relationship becomes prominent. So yeah, can you think of some examples in Krishna's pastimes where the devotee's primary rasa is temporarily covered? Trish.
The pastime where Krishna is in Vrta, and Uddhava brings the gopis a letter, and Radharani's like talking to the bumblebee, like, I don't want to hear about this story, but she's like, nah. She's like, just like you and him are just like going from flower to flower.
Yeah, because her usual mood is she's intensely attracted to Krishna. But then she gets angry with him that he goes away, she's like, don't even talk to me about Krishna, I don't want to know. Usually she's like, no, I want to hear about Krishna. Evan? Mike, please back up. Sure.
Looking to know was like Krishna gets dirt from Mother Yashoda in his mouth, and she's the universal form. So she's this good loving, and I guess it's the root of awe or love. I didn't just see that.
Yeah, so temporarily, I mean, Mother Yashoda is very temporary. At first she's like, oh my God. And then after she thinks, I need to call a doctor, this boy is sick. So immediately the parental affection comes back again. Yeah, but there's a moment there where she's like, who's this? Yeah. Anishan.
The example of Pandavas, Arjuna seeing universal form,
Yeah.
and Mother Kunti, even though she had more or less parental affection in her prayers, she was expressing the adoration of all her parents.
Yeah, so Arjuna, I mean, he's usually Krishna's friend, they just hang out together, they joke, they lie down on the same bed, they eat together. But then he sees the universal form and he's actually like afraid of Krishna. He's like shaking. Oh my God, just take this form away, I can't bear it. I want to see that. Yeah, exactly.
Thinking when Mother Yashoda is angry with Krishna, when he breaks, I mean, the gopis complain that he's making all nuisance in their houses, so she's angry and then she ties him up. So is that like, is that anger?
It's anger, but it's not really covering the rasa in a sense because she's punishing him as part of her duty as a mother. There's another aspect of that though, that sometimes the gopis complain about Krishna that what he did, like there's one that I have a picture of it. Yeah, I have a picture of it. But one gopi comes and says, you're Krishna, you stole butter, and then he took butter and he smeared it on the mouth of my son to make it look like he stole the butter. And then when she tells that to Mother Yashoda bursts out laughing. So that's an example of how the secondary rasya or comedy covers her, because she should be like, Krishna, you shouldn't do anything like that. But temporarily she's just covered by comedy. It's just so hilarious, she can't help herself. Alright, Anya? Oh, you're Naruto, sorry. Oh, Neil's over there.
Also, when Krishna is dealing with Kaliya, all the residents of Raja came there and they were kind of horrified by that scene for the moment, for some time.
Yeah.
Very shocked.
Yeah, shock, horror was very prominent there with Kaliya. Like his friends weren't thinking about playing with him at that time. They were just like, oh my God, Krishna's gonna die. Exactly.
So when Krishna was lifting Govardhan, I guess everyone was astonished or wondered like, how is he doing this? For some time they were like really surprised by that.
Yeah, so the gopis were also there, right? But they weren't having, at first at least, they weren't having romantic feelings. They were like, oh. Then after they went ahead with the sidewalk glances. Because these are just temporary, and just like momentary almost, and then the primary rasa takes over. It's sort of sometimes it's compared to like a river that's flowing. So the river always flows downhill, but sometimes if there's a wind, a strong wind going the opposite way, the ripples, it looks like the river's going the other way, but actually the undertow is always there. Let's go to the next thing. These are just some examples. So this is what Alishan said, Arjuna. The primary rasa of friendship covered by the secondary rasa of horror. Then the primary rasa of parental affection covered by the secondary rasa of comedy. Although she's not laughing there, but she will know. Then the primary mood of dasya and this is Bhishmadev. So he usually has a chivalrous mood towards Krishna, and also the Pandavas. He was just fighting in the battle of Kurukshetra to try and kill Arjuna. And now he's overwhelmed by this secondary rasa of compassion. And then, as Trish mentioned, primary rasa of conjugal love covered by the secondary rasa of anger. And then Vasudeva and Devaki, Krishna's parents in Mathura, their primary rasa of parental affection was covered by the secondary rasa of astonishment or wonder when Krishna manifested his form, Vishnu form. So the Devaki was holding Krishna in her arms, but then all of a sudden she just kind of stepped away and was like, like that. But then that also quickly changed because then she's like, now hide this Vishnu form because if Kamsa sees you like this, he's going to know you're God. And he's going to kill you. But if you're a baby, then we can hide you. Vishnu, how can I kill Vishnu? Okay, somebody read this, please.
The sum total of all these rasas is called affection or love. The spiritual exchange or rasa is fully exhibited in spiritual existence between living beings and the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Personality of God is therefore described in the Shruti mantras, Vedic hymns, as the fountainhead of all rasas. When one associates with the Supreme Lord and exchanges one's constitutional rasa with the Lord, then the living being is actually happy.
So yeah, so we're looking for happiness through relationships in the material world, but all these relationships are just perverted reflections of our original relationship with Krishna and Krishna's pure devotees. And it's amazing that Krishna, he simultaneously exhibits all these rasas. It's not that 1 minute he's, in a conjugal mood with the gopis, and the next minute he's doing all these things simultaneously. And he's simultaneously interacting with every one of unlimited gopis in the exact particular mood that she wants to interact with him at the same time as he's doing that with all the others. So Krishna is it's unlimited in its ability to exchange rasas. Okay, so here's a question. How can the secondary rasas, particularly what seem to be negative things like dread, anger, and ghastliness, make one happy? Because it says that exchanging these rasas with Krishna, we become happy. Yeah, ideas? Oh, Max.
My thinking was that all the emotions on the absolute platform are ways to attain maybe ananda, bliss.
Mm-hmm.
And in that mood, you can see it as a giant color palette of all these different emotions. And on the absolute platform, there's no assignment of good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's anger, in that can bring a certain type of bliss. It's wearing a certain type of mood.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Wonderful answer. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. In the material world, we think in terms of duality, that happiness is one thing and distress is the opposite. If I'm distressed, I'm not happy. If I'm happy, I'm not distressed. Whereas in the spiritual world, it's all, there's no duality. Everything is absolute. It's all just different varieties of ananda, of bliss. It's all different flavors of bliss. And even in this world, people go to, they'll go to horror movies for entertainment. They enjoy, being scared. Or they, sometimes people enjoy being angry. It's like an intensity to it that afterwards we feel kind of exhilarated, right? So when these are on the transcendental platform, the intensity and the exhilaration and the way that, when Radharani is angry with Krishna, when they make up, it's so much sweeter, it just increases the conjugal rasa. So these things just enhance each other and nourish each other and create variety that makes the devotees more and more happy in Krishna. So it gives Krishna more and more pleasure. let's go on because our time is short. Another quote here, somebody like to read?
These supermantras indicate that every living being has its constitutional position, which is endowed with a particular type of rasa, the extreme personality of Godhead. In the liberated condition only, this primary rasa is clearest and full. In the material existence, the rasa is clearest and completed form is separated. One who attains full knowledge of these different rasas, which are the basic principle of activities, can understand the false representations of the original rasas, which are reflected in the material world. The learned scholars develops the real rasa of this beautiful.
Yeah, so the more that we understand these rasas, these different relationships with Krishna and the sweetness, the juice that comes from them, the more we can actually perceive the real nature, the perverted nature of the material rasas, and we'll be able to become detached from material things. Because without, the spiritual tastes, the only thing we have is material, hopes for material pleasure. But when we actually experience this higher taste, then we can give up the lower perverse forms of these things. So how to experience the real spiritual rasa? And the answer is here. Please read.
In this shloka, it is definitely stated that spiritual rasa, which is relished even in the liberated stage, can be experienced in the literature of the Srimad Bhagavatam, due to its being the ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge. By submissively hearing this transcendental literature, one can attain the full pleasure of his heart's desire.
Okay, so the way to experience this rasa is by reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And we don't have to be liberated. Although in the not until we're liberated, we won't experience it fully. But we can experience something, enough to keep us going in spiritual life. Someone else? None of you can continue.
But one must be very careful to hear the message from the right source. Srimad Bhagavatam is exactly received from the right source. It was brought by Narada Muni from the spiritual world and given to his disciple Sri Vyasadeva. The latter, in turn, delivered the message to his son, Srila Shukadeva Goswami. And Srila Shukadeva Goswami delivered the message to Maharaj Parikshit just 7 days before the king's death. Srila Shukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul from his very birth.
And it explains how the fruit was passed down carefully from the tree. Okay? This is talking more about Shukadeva Goswami's qualification.
Despite his being a completely liberated person situated in the transcendental position above the three material worlds, he was attracted to the transcendental rasa of the supreme personality of God, who is adored by liberated souls receiving created fruit. The Supreme Lord's pastimes are more attractive to liberated souls than to mundane.
Yeah, that's Shukadeva Goswami in the blue there. In blue, here from Vyasadeva. So the point here is that the Srimad Bhagavatam is attractive even to liberated souls, which proves that Krishna's pastimes are not mundane. His interactions with the gopis, they're not material, lusty affairs between boys and girls. They're actually transcendental, and so liberated souls are even attracted to them. And it was talking about how we have to receive it through succession from a bona fide speaker. And this is the last quote here.
Srimad Bhagavatam is so carefully presented that a sincere and serious person can at once enjoy the ripened fruit of Vedic knowledge simply by drinking the nectarian juice through the mouth of Shukadeva Goswami or his bona fide representative.
So I put a picture of Srila Prabhupada there because Srila Prabhupada is definitely a bona fide representative of Shukadeva Goswami, and he's given us this Bhagavatam with purports that make it even more drava, even more chewed and soft so that we can swallow it and relatable to the current context that we live in. So we're very fortunate to have this Bhagavatam and we should drink it. And always. Just keep drinking it. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So we're over time already. If anyone has any questions, they can tackle it.
Sharira Vidya Jal Charendriya Karnikal Jive Fede Vishaya Sagare Sate Kaka Dina Samsare Krishna Doya Moy Hari Bhare Swaprashara Tito Bhai Amrita Power Krishna Guru Premanande Hari Hari Guru